really excited for this panel and really getting everyone to think about planning for your community's future generations. I had the great pleasure of getting to know everyone on one-on-one calls before pulling together the panel. I have Teresa Hopkins. She's the Governmental and Tribal Affairs Director at Sacred Wind Communications. And a fun fact about her is she used to do motocross when she was younger, which I think is amazing. I always love it when women just break barriers and jump into motorsports. And then I also have Dr. James Trumbly, Director of Wahzhazhe Connect. Did I say it right? Wahzhazhe Connect for the Osage Nation. And he actually retired and then came out of retirement to take on his project, which is amazing. Kristan Johnson is the Telephone Operations Manager at Tohono O'odham Utility Authority. And she is a tremendous leader, someone who is not afraid to get her hands dirty and really help out her team. It took me 6 weeks to get a hold of her because she was so busy helping with the front desk and making sure that she was supporting her team. And then I also have Jason Hall, who is the Tribal Broadband Projects Manager at Mohawk Networks, LLC. I learned a tremendous amount of knowledge from him while I was working at Mohawk Networks. He would be always the person that I would go talk to and ask questions about broadband grant applications. I asked him about, how Mohawk Networks was formed. He's very, very knowledgeable. So one of my first questions is for Teresa. Why is having connectivity important for public safety?
Thank you, Claudia, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to answer that question to give you two stories. About 10 years ago, in the western part of the Navajo Nation, there was a head-on collision on a remote 2-lane road in the middle of nowhere where there was no infrastructure. Because there was no infrastructure at the time, the family had to face a number of traumas. One, of course, is the incident itself and having to be involved in the accident. Second part of that trauma is having a family member lie on the paved road for hours before help could arrive. Third trauma is not knowing when help was going to arrive and actually seeing that family member pass on in the middle of the road. Second story, moving fast forward 10 years later. Last year in the summertime, Navajo Nation, we had been experiencing extreme drought. All of a sudden, we had an influx of flooding. An elderly couple with their son were trying to cross the wash, but a gush of water washed the truck that they were in into the wash. The grandson and the grandmother were able to get out. The grandfather wasn't fortunate enough. He lost his life still in the vehicle and was pulled under. The grandmother fortunately floated toward some growth within the wash and hung on for her life on weeds, branches, whatever she could. And in the meantime, the son had made his way to the shore. Again, in this particular instance, because it was a remote area in a Navajo community, same part of the reservation, that a similar fatality had happened 10 years ago and under different circumstances, the lack of communication. It took hours before help would arrive. Fortunately, the only fatality in this particular incident was the grandfather. So it makes you think within that 10-year lifespan, that 10-year span, how many lives could have been saved if we only had the infrastructure in place to call for help when it's needed. Thank you.
That's a great point. And Teresa, thank you for sharing those stories. Connectivity, a lot of times is used for entertainment purposes, and we kind of lose sight on how important it is for public safety. Jim, for project management is crucial part for effectively executing a broadband infrastructure build. Why is creating a project team an important step?
Well, thank you for the question. The project management, the way it's being done and administered, project management's crucial. It is how we control the entire overall project, the budget, the tasks, the completions, the durations, the sequencing, all of that. What we did was I started building a team. And by the way, I've got a great team back there. There's 4 of them out here. 2 project managers, a communication specialist, and a data analyst that are all here with me today. But we decided we were going to utilize an agile project management methodology called Scrum. And so there were some things we were real concerned about right off the bat. Supply chain, which we just talked about, was really important. And so one of the first things I did was I hired a procurement specialist that was dedicated to procurement. The next thing I did was hire a warehouse manager because we bought through competitive bidding all of the materials. We're buying all the materials. We're controlling it. We're receiving it. We're warehousing it. And that's really important because our grants are scattered across NTIA, RUS, and ARPA. So we have to be able to segregate, even if it's the exact same fiber tray, we got to make sure that a fiber tray bought by NTIA funds is not used on RDS funds or RUS projects. So we did that. And then we started gearing up the project management team. And I got 2 phenomenal project managers, one with vast experience, Drew Tiger in telecommunications, and the other one, Kelby Witham, who has done a certified Scrum Master. And I'm taking them and bringing them into how we manage project workbooks. So we keep a single repository for all of the individual projects. And we've taken down and done a work breakdown structure. We're doing stakeholder registry, so we understand exactly who the internal and external stakeholders are for each project. And we're doing weekly status reports, and Russ is doing a pretty extensive job helping us keep communication flowing within the team, to our vendors, and also to our constituents, to the tribal members as well. So project management is everything that it's a critical cog in everything we do. And if you don't have good project management, then you're just turning it over to the consultants who think they know what you need, but it's not until you get involved that you know exactly what you need, and you're best suited for managing and controlling that.
How are you going to continue to build your team as your project gets going?
How am I going to continue to build a team once the project keeps going?
Yeah, what position? Well, what position? Oh, you did review that. What positions you created to effectively manage the project?
Well, one of the positions is the data program analyst that we got, and that's necessary. One of our primary responsibilities is to make sure the FCC map is up to date and accurate, which is, as we all know, a challenge in and of itself. Plus, we are also working on additional grants going forward. And the way we've structured this, as we get additional grants awarded, we can hire new project managers to come on and continue expanding that project management capability that way. Currently, we have about $60 million in federal funds that we've been awarded. We feel very blessed, but at the same time, we have it's a good problem, but it's still a problem, right? And so we're laying 200 miles of fiber, 16 towers, and remodeling a data center. Actually, we're remodeling a casino into a data center. And then we've also dealing with training issues as far as staffing. Russ has been assisting us in spearheading a process in which we partnered with a local Tri-County Tech, VOTech firm, our financial assistance, workforce development assistant in identifying the potential Osage Nation, members, put them through the training course, and then part of our fiber to the home contract we had for our senior housing, we put a clause in there that they had to assist us with an apprenticeship program. And so once the trainees finish the in-classroom training, they immediately go on the job for about 6 to 8 weeks doing fiber to the home installations. And as we get new grants, hopefully, if we're fortunate, we can add new staff to the core team that we already have, and we can continue to grow. That's one of the advantages of using an agile methodology like Scrum, is that we can adapt and react to changes very rapidly and very quickly.
That's amazing. I really liked when I was talking with you how focused you were on project management, because like you said, you either do it in-house or you farm it out to a contractor who isn't as passionate about doing it correctly, doing it effectively. So I really, really liked how you have taken over the ownership of the project management. And then once you start rolling out fiber and you start connecting homes, you have to start getting people to sign up for services. And in talking with Kristan, I really liked her methodology and her passion for making sure that everyone gets connected, because the funds are given to the members of the tribe. So Kristan, I know currently the most effective marketing and advertising is done online, but you can't do online advertising to people who aren't connected. So what are your methods to making sure that your community members get signed up for services?
Okay, so currently we do try to put stuff on social media, and you're right that if they don't have access, how are they going to know? So we have gone door to door. We go door to door to each home in each village, and we try to make the most of those visits by talking about ACP, getting them prepared for ACP, what they need, letting them know if we have construction in their village coming up, any changes. So we try to kill as many birds with that one stone, and then we'll follow up again a second time on a Saturday or a Sunday to go back and actually complete ACP applications in the remote villages.
How has that method been really successful?
It has been. It's a lot of wear and tear on my staff, but it's not going to last forever. But it has been. We were getting about 30. Now we're getting about 30 new people signed up each month. So.
Wow, good for you. Like you said, door to door is time consuming. And when marketing people look at door to door, it's not a favorable return on investment a lot of times. But, the work that you do, making sure that passion that you have, making sure that, your community gets every benefit that they can. I admire you about that. I really, really like that.
I think it's effective as well, too, because they get to see us, who they're talking to on the other end, that we're not robots. We're people. We're on them. We're native, just like them. We're their neighbors, and we're the ones who are going to service them, going forward. It's not someone else. So I think that's also a bonus.
Thank you. So Jason, building the network is often seen as the easy part of getting broadband on territory because a project often has end dates. What are some challenges of operating a tribally owned BSP on territory?
Thanks, Claudia. Some of the challenges we had. So during the build project phase, our broadband service operated under the tribal government. So very restrictive. Decisions were very slow. So when we finished the project build, we moved the operations under a tribally owned enterprise structure, for profit. So within that structure also includes our casino and other businesses for profit. So this allowed us to move out of the tribal government decision making and just the slowness of operating as a program, right? So now we report to a board, and we have a more traditional business structure. The next challenge we had was resources available to tribes. So I'm sure most tribes are just like us, where we didn't have the technical people available, limited in the knowledge, especially about broadband. We started in 2011, I think is when we started our build. So nobody had that knowledge or experience. So after we went through the project, we developed all the construction people, we developed the outside plant technicians and workers. And then after we moved to the business enterprise, we needed to develop actually the business operations. So we needed to focus on the business operations, not just fiber specific, but just startup business, everything that's involved. We had limited resources. So what we did is we engaged our tribal stakeholders and made use of the casino's services, because they were already established for years and years, and they had structured IT, they had structured accounting, financing, and HR. Instead of us carrying personnel for each one of these roles, we set up a shared service agreement with that enterprise, and that allowed us to reduce our costs for those roles by 75%. So from there, it allows us to keep our operations smaller, our costs down, and additionally, we have people we can rely on when we run into challenges. IT specific. If it's IT specific, we have people who are qualified and experienced that we can lean on, and they have established policies and processes.
They also have a 24-hour IT staff.
Yeah, that was a big help. So their IT is 24 hours. That allows us to use them as after-hour support for our operations. So we don't have to carry 3 different shifts for support for our NOC. So we can carry one shift, and then after hours is provided by the casino's IT staff.
Thank you for sharing that. Teresa, what are some challenges that the Navajo Nation has encountered in getting the entire community connected?
A few years ago, the Navajo Nation, through a collaboration of Navajo IT professionals, representing all of the 3 branches of the Navajo Nation, the executive, legislative, and the judicial branch, created a team to do an assessment on the Navajo Nation. That turned into hiring consultants to help them develop a report, which would eventually develop a plan for Navajo to move forward. In that plan, the dollar figure that was estimated to truly connect Navajo, not at 100%, but close enough, let's say around 85 to 90%, would be anywhere ranging from $450 million to $550 million. So financially, the dilemma of that amount of money to truly connect all of Navajo was really a high level to achieve. So as a result, Navajo through the years has applied for funding, whether it's through NTTA, USF, there has been some RUS monies. Service providers apply for funding as well, reconnect some of the same entities, loans through RUS, etc. But the problem, though, at the time when Navajo was building out the technology was the restrictions placed by the federal government on what we could or couldn't do with those resources and how we could cost share those different funding agencies. That was one area. The other area is working with the states. A lot of the funding would also go to the states where, like I'm sure some tribes here have experienced, the relationship that tribes have with states. If you don't have a good relationship with your state, more than likely you weren't going to get available. You were not allocated any of the funding that should have gone to tribes. So as a result, you were left out. That's another dilemma. Also, the fact that the Navajo Nation goes into 3 states, So sometimes we may move faster in one section. Let's say New Mexico, we move faster, but Arizona and Utah is left behind. And then depending on where the money was coming from, trying to coordinate that made it all very difficult. But as we heard today, that there's now seems to be a coordination where our voices are now being heard on how do we cost share and take that money further. So it's good to hear that the federal agencies are looking at coordinating even amongst themselves at that level and making sure that there's no overlap or duplication of services, for one. And the other thing that I think is unique that has never been there before is having tribal members at those levels to help manage and help the federal government walk through this process. Because it's always been educating the federal government on what they don't see. The assumption always has been that they knew what tribes needed, and in reality, they didn't even know tribes at all. So, which is a good thing. So that's something that's positive, and that's something that's moving forward. So the future still looks bright. There's still light at the end of the tunnel, and I do hope to see someday soon, not in 10 years, that soon, within 2 years, that we actually see more development on the Navajo Nation, whether it's from the public or the private side. Preferably, it's in coordination and cooperation and collaboration in all sides. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Teresa. Jim, what are some key considerations to designing a network to meet the future needs of the community?
Well, that's a really interesting and loaded question. So the interesting thing about a network on tribal lands or for the tribal people, the native people, is that it has all the needs that you typically would think of that anybody would have. If you build a network or design a network, you're an ISP in Phoenix, they're going to want to have the ability to remote work from home. They're going to want the ability to telemedicine, distance learning. Although on tribal lands, the ramifications are even greater. If you live in Phoenix and you can't do telemedicine, you can drive to the doctor. On tribal lands, if you can't do telemedicine, you might not be able to get to a doctor. It may be too far away or you can't find one. So I think the ramifications the requirements are all there. The ramifications are just bigger. In addition to that, the needs and demands extend beyond what you normally would have. So you kind of have to put on a fortune teller hat and try to figure out what the future is going to look like and the impact on the tribe and the culture and the language and the skills and the resources that are all there. So you have to, in addition to provide all of the services that you would normally have for any ISP, even in an urban area, you also have to look at things that protect and enhance your tribal sovereignty and your tribal identity. So, when we were designing and building this, we took very great care, and I met with our Secretary of Culture and Language, and they want to have language classes for the Osage language and the Osage orthography. They want to do things like they've just published a book called The Bear and the Coyote, and it has the ability to be read in Osage. Also, they want to have classes on things like how to do ribbon work and how to do beading and how to make moccasins and leggings and bandoliers and things we all need for our traditional regalia, our traditional dress. Plus, they want to have the capability of the Osage Museum wants to be able to present that and their exhibit and their collection as well. And those are all important aspects to us as a people. We also have to identify the importance of the connectivity, the thread. Our chief we've been very fortunate that he has the same vision. He has a vision that he wants to be able to connect our ancestors with our descendants. And that's what we're trying to do. We started out building for the first fiber to the home project we did is in the Pawhuska, which is the Osage Nation capital, the Pawhuska senior housing for our elders, to get them connected with fiber to the home so they can have gigabit fiber in the senior housing. You know, and so you look at that, but we also want to be able to do things like virtual reality. So you can, in fact, learn virtually how to do a lot of these components and things like that that are part of our culture and part of what it means to be to see the drum keeper and be the tail dancer and things like that. So all of those aspects are really critical, and virtual reality can help do some of that stuff. Plus, we want to incorporate some AI into some of our things. So maybe you could actually sit down and have a conversation with Chief Baconrine, you know, or Chief Claremore, you know, from 100 years ago, you know. So those things have to be made available, and you kind of have to have that, like I said, that crystal ball to look into that. And we want to do that with a lot of other things too. We want to encourage economic development. We want to encourage entrepreneurship. So one of the things we're talking about doing in our data center is, if you're an Osage entrepreneur, we want to be able to allow you to, we'll provide your IT footprint for 2 years as like an incubator almost. And that's going to be a huge help, I think, for the IT component. We're doing things like I mentioned earlier. We want to train our people in the modern, give them skill sets that are applicable in this century. And we're training them on how to install fiber, how to splice fiber, things like that with training programs like this. We're trying to create jobs and enhance our economy within the Osage County. So you have to look at all of those things. And that's what it means to build a broadband network in Native American, in Indian country today, is you are going to change lives, and everything you do, you've got to be focused on what's best for your people. Yeah, and that's why, going back to the first question, project management, that's why I think it's so important that we manage these projects, because we know what our people need. You know, a contractor from 1,000 miles away that comes in and helps us, they don't know what our people need. We do. And we need to take control of that.
Yeah, I like that. And then what I really like about your story is how you engaged the community to tell you what their vision was for the use of broadband. So you can build around each individual's vision, so you have a clear idea of where your community's connectivity needs to go. Thank you for that. Kristan, as a leader, how willing do you have to be to get your hands dirty to help get your community connected?
Not dirty at all. Just kidding. You actually have to get them very dirty. Just as the example earlier, we stated, you know, as my staff is going out to the homes, you know, someone still has to manage the operations. I'm sure outside plant doesn't want me working a trench or anything, but I've always instilled in my staff, my leadership staff, that I would never ask them to do something that I couldn't or physically wouldn't do myself. So because I'm sure they wouldn't want me in the CO messing with cards or whatever, I take on the front office so that the staff can do what they need to do. They can go out and continue to engage with the customers and get things done. So that's pretty dirty.
Well, yeah, I mean, engaging with your own subscribers is really important, and it's important, and then you learn a lot about your subscribers by doing that. So I think you have better insights as to what your community needs by having more of those face-to-face interactions with them.
Right, and that it's not beneath me to still help them. I'm still,
Yeah, you're there. You know the systems. You learn. You know how to provide a really good customer experience for all your community members.
exactly.
Jason, how do insights into the home or businesses help cut down on customer issues, and why is that important for a better customer experience?
Thank you. Because we work with a small team, we need the right tools to help us get those insights. Well, we make use of Calix, a support cloud, and we just recently installed Operations Cloud. With the support cloud, our team can actually see right into the subscriber's home, see what's going on with their router. That's the best way you can support them, is to be able to see exactly what's going on with them. We also have the ability to set up Command IQ for them, which allows actually the subscriber to manage their own routers. So that cuts down on calls as well. So just having that software there to go through to see what's going on with the managed router or with the ONT to identify the issue quicker, which allows us to support them better, give them a better customer experience. And really, that's the customer experience is very important, especially with our small team. All our customers, subscribers are only like 10 minutes away from our office. We're all like a small community, so they recognize who they're talking with. They recognize the front desk. They'll know the person by voice. It's very small. If we have issues, it's on Facebook before it's on our monitor. It's quick. It's very quick. So, just having that tight knit community and them knowing that they can actually come to our office and speak with us really gives us an edge over other companies. And having the right tools for our small team to use is very important. Insights, we just upgraded to Operations Cloud. So what I'm hoping with that is additional reporting on traffic and just more ability for our small team to cope with expanding subscriber count and so on.
And then why is it important to reduce the trouble calls to improve the effectiveness of your team?
Well, because we're a small team, reducing those calls is going to allow us to focus on other issues that our business has, and it allows us to actually work on other revenue generating opportunities that we need to do, because we have a limited number of subscribers. We have 1,600 subscribers on territory, and we're not going to get any more homes on our territory. So we need to either find other revenue streams, or we need to expand off territory. So it's very expensive. The grant funding and the opportunities are limited. So what we did was we work as best as we can with what we got, and then we're expanding other revenue streams, and we're moving into different areas, and we're doing what we can.
In my time working with you, one of my favorite projects that we worked on together was rolling out providing services to our small businesses on managed IT services. So being able to have our small businesses have a small IT team that they don't need to employ. And that was one of the greatest lessons that I learned from you. And collaborating with you is just continually thinking and working as a team and creating those additional revenues to meet the needs of what your community needs.
So just like we make use of our casino's IT staff and their knowledge, we give that opportunity to our small businesses to make use of us for managed services and IT services, because we know there was a need for all our small businesses for technical support. and it is a lot of small businesses and community anchor institutes take advantage of that.
So my final question, if you could go back to do it when you started in telecom, what advice would you give yourself? And would you do it again? Yep.
The advice I would give myself back then is to avoid tribal politics at all costs. And would I do it again? Yes. As Teresa and I were talking, that I've learned over the years that a lot of the issues we face as ISPs, as a telecom, is technical, not political.
Thank you. Teresa?
If I could go back in time, what advice I would give myself and what I know today is right away. Fix the right away. So maybe by now, a lot of the projects would have been done. And I would do it again, definitely. No question.
I think our vetting process of all our consultants that we use, I would do better for sure. There was a lot of leakage from the wrong consultant trying to do project management, so it didn't work. So I would try to get the right people in the right roles. That would have been first. I think. What else would I change? Focus on the business. Focus on the business as well. So you got to have you have to have your business operating smoothly in order to do anything else. So focus on the business before considering expansion would be another one as well.
Would you do it again?
Of course, it's very challenging, very hard, but it's rewarding as well when you accomplish what you set out to do.
Thank you. Jim?
So what would I tell my younger self?
Yep.
Run. No, that's not really true. I feel very fortunate in the fact that my career path has given me skills and skill sets that I find myself using all the time in this current position. And it's given me the opportunity now to give back to my people. And there's no greater reward, I think, than that. So I'm not one to dwell on regrets or change. So I really don't know what I would change, because everything that I've done to this point has led me to this point right now. And I kind of like being where I am. So I'm pretty happy with the contribution I'm allowed to make, and hopefully I will do my people justice. So.
Thank you. So you would do it again?
Do what?
You would do it again, be in telecom?
Yeah, I would. I probably would do it a little before I'm 68, but yeah, I would do it again.
Does anyone have questions for our panelists? Oh, I don't have a microphone.
That's a great question, because it's so critical. But if you think about it, technology is just a tool, right? Television used to be, everybody was scared of television. Everybody was scared of the phone. Everybody was scared. It's just another tool for communicating. As far as coupling the use of technology with maintaining our culture, one of the things that we're looking at doing is with our seniors, who have a challenge with technology, right? I mean, that's just common. But our youth who are, you know, I know seniors that can't try to set the clock on a VCR, but, you know, some kids can come in and play video games, you know, on anything. So one of the things we were talking about doing was pairing up our youth with our elders. And two things are going to happen with that. They're going to help the elders. Granted, they're going to get real frustrated doing it, but they're going to help the elders. And at the same time, the elders are going to pass on the culture and the traditions to the youth. And that's kind of what we're looking at. Hopefully, we're working to encourage and things like that. So you can do things like that. You just got to think outside the box on how can you keep both of those goals in mind, you know, and constantly think, how can I do that? And again, that goes back to something that, you know, no outside consultant you hire to come in and outsource your networks is going to ever think of that.
Is there any other questions?
I have a
Oh.
add on to that. So
Yep.
one thing that we did is when we were after we did the fiber build, we also created a local TV channel, Wahzhazhe TV, and because we could deliver that to the homes through a fiber, I mean, it was great for providing another stream for cultural teachings, knowledge, stuff like that. So turned into a great video production capabilities, and they produce content, indigenous storytelling from our point of view. So, which is what we don't have in a lot of the news media and all that stuff. So this this has spawned. I mean, I had extra money in the BTOP grant when I was managing that. And what I decided to do was just buy video equipment, then go find somebody that knew how to operate it, and then maybe, you know, produce a couple of videos. And that turned into this Wahzhazhe TV, which we provide to the homes, and actually moved beyond that into now they moved back under the tribe as a tribal program because they saw the need for that avenue in stream. So that was a great side project that happened because of, you know, the BTOP and the BIP, you know, just it took off.
Yeah, what I liked about Wahzhazhe TV is it gave us a voice. It took back our voice, and it allowed us to tell our stories the way we see it, not allowing somebody else to tell our stories the way they see it. That's what I really liked about Wahzhazhe TV.
There are some technologies already developed out there, some applications where it allows you to incorporate language or culture that you don't see very much of here. But if you look in the Canadian territories, they have developed a lot of that and interacted with both the youth and the elderly. Navajo, for example, we have, I believe it's Finding Nemo and Star Trek. That's all dubbed in Navajo. Complete Navajo from beginning to end. Even if you don't understand Navajo, just the way the interpreters in the film are speaking, you can kind of pick up what they're saying. And it's really funny, especially Nemo. I mean, it's fun to see Nemo talking Navajo. And it's like, wow, Nemo can talk Navajo. There's also applications available where it's a combination of, for kids, that it's developed on an iPad and a tablet, where elders in the community are teaching colors in their own language. They're teaching numbers in their own language. They're teaching animals in their own language, and it's recorded in the elders in the community's voice. So that's all available. It's just a matter of having the knowledge and finding out where these applications exist and incorporating it into our culture and making technology part of us, not the reverse. Thank you.
All right. Is there, yeah. Thank you guys. This was a great panel discussion.